And I remember talking to one of my really good friends from college, and I told him, I revealed this to him, hey, I actually don't like this performing thing. And he was like, that doesn't make any sense. He was like, you are how can you say you're a dancer and you don't like performing? And it was at that moment that I was like, they're different things. What is up, artists and movers? Welcome back to another podcast style episode. If you listen to these in the past on my channel, which I do have a couple of them, you know it's where I get a little bit deep here. I get a little bit in my head, and I like to talk about whatever happens to be on my heart at that moment. Those moments are typically, in the wee hours of the night/morning. So this is one of those times. It is roughly 4 a.m. and I've been having this thought lately, especially with, the world starting to reopen, and thankfully the dance industry starting to reopen and a lot of dancers being back at work. And me seeing them and knowing that at one point that was the desire of my heart. That's why I moved to LA. And seeing them and feeling like that's not at all what I want. And thank God that I'm not doing that. Which is a very weird place to be when you at one point dropped everything in your life to do that thing, and all of a sudden you see someone else doing that thing, and as great as it is, as much as you are happy for those people, it's not something that you would want for yourself. And so I've been thinking about it, and I think I've figured out why for me that is, and it has to do with the fact that dancing and performing are not the same. They are not the same, and I've always had this theory, really ever since college, maybe before that. And so now we're going to explore that theory a little bit, and explore how that applies to my life now. And if you're able to relate, then fantastic. Go ahead and let this play while you're making your breakfast. Maybe you're taking a drive, when you're listening to this in your car. But let it play while you're, doing your life. And let's just chat for a bit. So, to give you guys some backstory, I moved to Los Angeles roughly 3 months after I graduated college. And I graduated college in 2017. That feels like that was a while ago. Ew, how old am I? Anyway, with the intention of, and I remember this so vividly, I said, I'm going to do the dance thing for 5 years, get it out of my system, be able to say I did those things, and then I want a regular life. I remember so clearly saying that. And it was because deep down at the time, I already knew that I did not like performing. I remember being roughly 13 or 14 years old. And at that point, I'm from a really small town. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I guess relative to other cities in South Carolina, Charleston isn't small, but relative to the entire contiguous United States, small city. And so in that city, I was known as one of the dancer girls, especially in the Black community. So when anyone would have an event, they would be like, oh, we want some entertainment. Let's get that dance girl. And I remember being 13 or 14. And at this point, I had done a couple of those events. And just, I didn't like it, but I didn't know how to say I don't like performing because I love dancing. And so I remember my mom being like, oh, you're dancing for this thing. So-and-so asked me, it's on this date. Just make sure you put that in your calendar so you don't have anything else going on that day. And I remember getting so angry with her, like irate, and being like, Mom, do not ever tell anyone that I'm going to perform for their events again without like contacting me first, without letting me know first. I was like, do not tell them I'm gonna dance at their 50th reunion. Do not tell them I'm gonna dance at their church function unless they run it by me. And I remember her being like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just assumed, like, you have this gift, why not share it? That was always her thing. And I was like, I want to get paid. Like, I'm tired of like my weekends being spent with old people at their events. I want to get paid, So from that point on, even if I was paid in $100 Target gift card, your girl was getting paid. But at the root of it, it wasn't so much about the pay. It was about that I didn't actually enjoy performing, and I didn't know how to vocalize that. Because dance and performance are so often, tied together. Couple years later, just showing my progression with this idea, I remember feeling like every dancer fits into one of these categories. They thrive in performance, they thrive in class, or they thrive in rehearsal. And I had this theory because I enjoyed each of those three things at a very different level. And so my theory at the time, and I guess still now, is that your brain is doing different things in each of these situations. So in the classroom, your brain is focused on improving a step. Your brain is focused on picking up choreography, but your brain is focused on like making something that you do even better. And so it's a lot of tough stuff that happens in class because it's like getting over those hurdles to get to the next level. Whereas in a rehearsal, once you learn the choreography, it's really just about enjoying doing it with the people who you're going to be performing it with. So like getting to know the rest of the dancers, figuring out like how you best work with them. And it's like, oh my gosh, we both love doing this kind of movement. That's awesome. And it gave me a way to connect in a way that was always kind of difficult for me because I'd always had difficulty relating to other people. And so that's why I loved rehearsal. And with performance, it's about performing. It's about, getting into the zone, getting into that moment in front of the audience and just delivering and letting go. And that is what I had trouble with. Which was super weird because when I got to college, shockingly, to my surprise, I was one of the dancers that was picked often to perform in the performances. And performing never got more fun. It still was something that I felt very like, it's a side effect of dance. Like it's something that I gotta do. If I like this dance thing, I'm expected to do it, so I'm gonna just do it. And my senior year of college, I remember I was like, I don't want to perform. My senior year, I had a piece that I was choreographing, which I absolutely loved that entire process, again, because I thrive in rehearsal. I loved being able to create a space that I got to curate, So some people often are given this idea of what a rehearsal is based off of their past experiences, and I wanted to create something that was completely outside of that. Why do we have to talk crazy to dancers to get them to get the step right? Like, we don't. We can actually treat them like regular human beings. Like, why do we have to walk in and have all of these steps already made and we haven't even, taken the dancer's facility into account. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Let's make it up there, but let's give ourselves, some parameters. Anyway, that's how I love to work, which also is very contrary to how LA is, which is very contrary to how choreography is as an adult, period, because there's budget. And so there are timelines on rehearsals and all that stuff. And maybe I'll do an episode about that. Maybe we can get into that, but that's not what this is about. So yeah, I realized that, my senior year, I don't want to perform. I don't want to dance. And I remember one of my professors just being like, are you sure? Like, it's your last year? Like, you don't want to? And I was just like, no, I just want to make sure that my piece looks great. Everyone else can have that stage-ish. I was very over it. And so it kind of shocked myself and shocked everyone else when I was like, I'm moving to LA to be a professional dancer. But at the time, I did so because I felt like, A, I would be able to do some of the things that seemed pretty effing cool, if I'm being real. And I would be able to do that as someone who didn't necessarily fit into societal norms in terms of body standards when it came to dance at the time. I now know that that's not so, and that those body standards exist in different ways in LA. They also, manifest themselves as colorism, etc., but it's fine. So yeah, it was definitely a shock when I made that decision. And I remember talking to one of my really good friends from college, and I told him, I revealed this to him, like, hey, I actually don't like this performing thing. And he was like, that doesn't make any sense. He was like, you are like, how can you say you're a dancer and you don't like performing? And it was at that moment that I was like, they're different things. Dancing is how I have learned to experience the world. It's how I've learned more about my body and my muscular structure and my joints and all of the very specific things that are unique about my body. No one else ever has told me, oh, you know what, my arm span is actually about 20% longer than it should be based on statistical trends on arm span to height ratios. No one knows that but me. I know that because of dance and because I realized, dang, my arm span is 5'8" and I'm 5'2". And I don't know if that 20% was the right number. It probably wasn't. But you know what I'm saying. Dance is how I've learned to express myself creatively, or at least it was the first way I've learned that. I've learned many ways since then, but it was the very first way I learned how to express myself creatively. Dance was one of the first things that allowed me to feel confident in myself. And ultimately, and most importantly, dancing, when I am dancing, that is the place where I can reach my highest level of flow. Which, if you aren't familiar with the idea of flow, is essentially the state that you reach where your mind is no longer having to work effort fully to create something or to do something. It comes naturally, you're in the moment, and it's kind of that area where challenge meets ability, and you're able to let your mind go. And I've realized that I've never been able to feel that flow in performing. I've always been the person backstage who was like, I'm going to be over here in this corner, focusing on these steps for a bit. I never was able to be super fun backstage and how they're playing music and I'm like, I need to focus or else this whole show is going to be trash for me. And some people aren't like that. Some people, they feel that flow. They feel that natural sense of my body knows what to do when I perform. And that's not something that happens for me. And when I accepted that for myself, that allowed me to let a lot of ish go. That allowed me to let this expectation that because I'm a dancer and because I'm pretty good at it, that means that I have to pursue a performance career. I was able to let go of the idea that my job as someone who enjoys dance is to bring joy to other people, because that's also something that I understand what he was trying to do. But one of my professors would reiterate is like, you are here for the audience. You're here for them, to give them something. Like, I actually don't care about them. They don't care about me either. If we're being fair, they want to be entertained. I'm not in dance necessarily for the entertainment aspect. I'm in it for the relationships that I get out of it. And I think that's why I enjoy the rehearsal aspect, is because you get to connect with people in such a new way if it's done in a way that allows for the individual in the rehearsal to be nurtured. And that's the thing that I've noticed is not as prevalent in the commercial dance industry, simply because, again, budget constraints. Ideally we would love to have like 3 months to really rehearse for an award show performance, when in reality they get like 2 weeks. And so that element of like letting people come in, working with their strengths, playing in the space, seeing what's possible, all of that goes out the window because we have 2 weeks worth of budget. And so we have to be able to afford this rehearsal space. And so we can't take the time to nurture the individual like that. And so because of those reasons, performance ain't my jam. And having a performance career was never going to be my jam. And so, I was able to let that go. And one, it's allowed me to stop looking at everything from the lens of like, why isn't that me? Or, man, I could have gotten that. Because if I'm being completely honest, I don't want it. I don't want it. Having been in enough of those commercial style dance rehearsals myself, they can keep that. And that's just me. That's just my opinion. But it's not something that I find joy in. And I remember listening to a podcast episode on, what is her name? I can't remember her name. And the guy's name is escaping me too. Gosh, I'm terrible at this. I will have them linked in the description box below. But I remember he was one of Britney Spears' dancers, I believe. And he was saying how like it's the main thing that I took from him speaking in this podcast episode was he said it's all about falling in love with the work. And when I heard him say that, I was like, oh my God, that fully explains why that wasn't for me, because I could not fall in love with that work, meaning the process. I wanted to have like the end result on my resume essentially. But I found no actual joy in going to those rehearsals. I found no joy in actually doing the performances, And so acknowledging that freed me from living under the expectations of other people and what they felt I was supposed to do with the talent that I had. And it's opened doors for me to explore what I can do with the talent that I have. And it's been fun. It's been so fun because I get to constantly be excited about the work, and I get to fall in love with the work. And so in this time where the dance industry is opening back up, I loved seeing the BET Awards. I didn't watch the actual award show, but I watched a lot of the performances, and just seeing so many dancers on that stage, seeing so many Black dancers on that stage, like I know for so many of them, not having that was so incredibly difficult. Like not just financially, but like on them as a person. Whereas for me, like your girl was fine, you know. Those were never truly the desires of my heart. And so I'm like, those experiences belong to them. They're the people for those. And I'm the person for the ones that are for me. And I want to seek out experiences that allow me to be put in a state of flow in new ways. And so one of those ways is creating YouTube content. I found that I really love brand strategy, and I'm really getting into marketing and how that all ties into the dance industry and, you know, the way that we operate. And so I have my talents that can be used in a different way to still help dancers. And I am excited to cultivate that voice of mine and cultivate those skills so that I can show up, you know, not only doing something well, but also doing something that I enjoy. And so I encourage you. I know that this isn't a message that's going to hit everyone. I know that a large bulk of people who dance also do enjoy performing, also do enjoy the stage. And that is, you know, that's typically the way that it is. But if that is not you, one, I see you, I'm there with you. So it's not like something's wrong with you. It just means that there's probably something else in you that you're meant to combine with that dancing ability, with that past dance experience that ultimately will allow you to contribute in a very valuable way, in a way that is, you know, just as valuable as performing. So, yeah. I mean, and just saying that, I'm thinking of friends that I have now who I think that's probably the case for them too. I have some friends who, you know, are deep into the industry and absolutely love it. And I have other friends who I feel like are hanging on to the idea that they have to use their dance abilities in a very specific way. And I want to challenge that idea. And challenge dancers to use their fullest self, whatever that looks like. You know, if you love math, if you love history, if you love socioeconomics and diving, how are you going to combine that with dance? Because if you really find how you can do some great things for people, which, like I said, will be just as valuable as being a performer. So comment down below if you can relate. Are you a dancer who does not like performing? You know, let's form a little baby club over here of dancers who love to dance but don't like to perform, because it is hard finding those people. And if that's not you, just share your perspective on the whole idea of dance and performance being separate things. I think that's also why, you know, people like, I would put people like a Beyonce, like a Doja Cat, Cardi's trying to make her little way in there. Okay, first of all, Cardi is a performer first and foremost. People like to play on her because she was a stripper, blah, blah, blah. Cardi understands putting on a performance, and I feel like people just don't understand that because people don't understand the level of these strip clubs and like how much of a performance it is. And then people are like so surprised when she puts on a good show. And I'm like, why are you surprised? She was a stripper. She understands the importance of costuming and choreography. And anyway, I could go on a whole rant about Cardi. Clearly I'm a fan, but I'm saying that to say that, like, I wouldn't characterize those people as dancers, but I would definitely put them in as performers, and that performing involves dance often. So yeah, what are your thoughts on all of that? Maybe we could continue this conversation in a different way. I don't know. Drop some topics down below. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video next weekend. Later.